Diamond Street, Peckham, February 2007. The night was silent, the kind of silence that covers working-class London neighborhoods after midnight. Street lights buzzing, foxes darting across the road, neighbors asleep behind locked doors. Inside a modest home, 15-year-old Michael Dosunmu was wrapped in his duvet, lost in dreams of a future his parents had worked hard to provide. Then the door burst open. Heavy boots pounded the stairs. A weapon of war, a MAC-10 submachine gun, was raised in the dark. Bursts of gunfire echoed through the house. Bullets tore into Michael's body. When it was over, the shooters fled into the night. Michael's sister Shakira ran into the room, saw her brother's body still wrapped in the duvet, and screamed. Michael was gone, and South London would never forget his name. To understand Michael's death, you must first understand Peckham. By the mid-2000s, Peckham was a melting pot of cultures: Nigerians, Ghanaians, Somalis, Jamaicans, Sierra Leoneans, all packed into council estates and terraces. Immigrant parents worked double shifts to keep food on the table. Their children walked a different path, one paved with postcode rivalries, school exclusions, and the magnetic pull of the streets. The Peckham Boys, one of London's most feared gangs, had become synonymous with violence, robbery, and drug dealing. They were less an organized syndicate than a loose brotherhood of crews, each representing their corner. To outsiders, they were thugs. To insiders, they were a family for those who lacked stability at home. In Peckham, reputation was everything. To be disrespected was to be diminished. To retaliate was to survive. Guns, once rare in Britain, had seeped into these streets, often imported through Europe or smuggled in from war-torn West Africa. This was the world Michael's brother Hakeem entered. The Dosunmus were respected people. Razak and Shakira, psychiatric nurses, had worked their way up from nothing, intent on giving their children the best. Michael, their youngest, embodied their hopes. Bright, ambitious, innocent of street life, he was the kind of boy who still dreamed about careers, sports, and his future. But Hakeem, the eldest son, walked a different road. After a stint in the army, he returned restless, caught between the discipline of military life and the chaos of Peckham streets. He linked up with peers, men like Orlando Madden, Mohammed Sano, and Javari Crichton, who were chasing quick money through crime. For Razak and Shakira, it was a cruel irony. While they healed psychiatric patients by day, the sickness of street crime seeped into their own home at night. Between January and February 2007, Hakeem and his crew went on a spree of armed robberies. Their method was crude. Watch a bank, supermarket, or building society. Wait for a cash-in-transit guard. Rush him with a gun. Grab the box. Sometimes they won big, 25,000 pounds in one raid. Sometimes they left with scraps, or nothing at all, humiliated by dye-stained notes. The money was never enough. It vanished into the streets, spent on cars, clothes, status, and paranoia grew like rot in the group. The breaking point came after an 18,000-pound haul. Madden, the oldest, was accused of cheating the crew. He claimed a box was empty. The others whispered he had pocketed thousands. In the world of crime, nothing is deadlier than the suspicion of betrayal. On the 3rd of February 2007, outside Madden's Peckham home, tensions erupted. Crichton and Sano confronted Madden. The confrontation spiraled. Madden, quick to violence, stabbed Crichton fatally. He fled, but days later surrendered to police. For Sano, this was personal. Crichton was more than a partner in crime. He was a brother in arms. Madden's betrayal demanded blood, but Madden was locked up, so Sano looked elsewhere. He fixed his sights on Hakeem Dosunmu, Madden's right-hand man. Sano, known on the streets as Striker, was not a man to mourn quietly. He wanted revenge. With him was Abdi Omar Noor, 22, a Somali youth who had drifted into drugs and street life. Their plan was simple. If they couldn't get Madden, they would punish Hakeem. In their world, violence was the only language understood, and so they armed themselves with a MAC-10 submachine gun, a weapon designed for military battlefields, not London bedrooms. On the 6th of February 2007, before dawn, they burst into the Dosunmu family home. They believed they would find Hakeem asleep in the back bedroom. Instead, they found Michael. The MAC-10 roared. Bullets ripped through the boy still cocooned in his duvet. He never had a chance. When Shakira, his sister, rushed to the room, she saw the killers fleeing. The army jacket, the scarf, the chaos left behind. And she saw her little brother's body. The killers fled into the London night. What stunned police later was not just the act, but the killer's indifference. Noor, while drunk in Ipswich, boasted to a girl that they had gone to kill Hakeem, but shot the boy instead. Sano, when arrested, was equally cold. "This boy's brother killed my friend. I don't care about the murder. I don't care what happened to that boy." In their twisted logic, Michael's death was justified by Crichton's. In truth, it was the ultimate act of cowardice, striking at the innocent because they couldn't reach the guilty. The Old Bailey became the stage for this tragedy. Madden was tried first for killing Crichton. Convicted, he received life with a minimum of 14 years. Then came Sano and Noor. In the dock, Hakeem himself pointed at them. "I know they killed my brother. Ask them why they killed my brother." But nothing could bring Michael back. In 2008, Sano and Noor were sentenced to life, with a minimum of 30 years. The Dosunmus, hard-working psychiatric nurses, lost their youngest child. Michael's parents never stopped defending Hakeem, despite his guilt and the role his lifestyle played in bringing danger home. He carried the unbearable weight of knowing his choices had indirectly cost his brother's life. Crichton's mother, Yvette Brian Graham, mourned her son too. She doubted he had truly been part of the robberies, pointing to weak evidence. Her son, she insisted, was not the hardened criminal they portrayed. He had sickle cell anemia, she argued, and wasn't built for that life. Every family involved walked away broken. Michael's death was not just a personal tragedy, it was the product of a culture. In South London's black communities, young men like Sano and Noor grew up in fractured spaces. Fathers absent, mothers overstretched, schools quick to expel, opportunities scarce. The streets became their university. The gangs of Peckham mirrored the gangs of Compton or the Bronx. They shared codes of loyalty, retaliation, and bravado. Grime music rap echoed their struggles. Weapons became props of power. The MAC-10 in that bedroom was not just a gun. It was a symbol of global violence exported into London's estates. And yet for every Sano, there was a Michael, a boy who could have been anything. His life was proof that most young black boys were not criminals. But his death showed that when the streets burn, the innocent are consumed too. The story of Michael Dosunmu's murder feels hauntingly familiar to anyone who studied America's 1980s crack era. In New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, young black men armed themselves, formed crews, robbed, sold drugs, and killed over suspicion and pride. Innocent children died in crossfires. Parents who had migrated for better lives buried their kids. London, decades later, was replaying the same script. Poverty, policing that often alienated rather than protected. Media demonization, a cycle of violence that punished the innocent. Michael could have been a child in the Bronx in 1985. Instead, he was a boy in Peckham in 2007. Today, Madden sits in a cell. So do Sano and Noor. Hakeem has served his time, still carrying his guilt. But Michael lies in a grave. His name reminds us that the logic of the streets is madness, that revenge has no end, that when bullets fly, it is not always the guilty who fall. The Peckham crime wave of 2007 left 2 young men dead, 3 imprisoned for life, and families scarred beyond repair. Michael Dosunmu was not in a gang. He was not part of a robbery. He was a child asleep in his bed. And so his story remains one of the most tragic parables of Black London life. A world where the sins of the streets reached into a family home and stole away its brightest light.